Things are unraveling in Israeli politics. Basically, what we just witnessed this past week was that in order to pass an essential security bill, the Bennett-Lapid government preferred diluting the bill to make a deal with the anti-Zionist Meretz Party and the anti-Israel Muslim Brotherhood Ram Party, who are both vehemently against the bill, instead of making a deal with the right-wing and religious parties in the opposition who actually support the bill. Even one member of Prime Minister Naftali Bennett's own party, Amichai Shikli, voted against the bill. Why did he vote against the bill by his own party leader, the Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett? Well, as Shikli himself tweeted, he would have voted for the bill had his own party leaders, Bennett and Shaked, not given in to the demands by the anti-Zionist parties, which diluted the bill. And what did he tweet? Quote, "And let it be clear, if the law had come as written in its word without surrendering to the anti-Zionist Meretz and Ram parties, I would have voted for it." By the way, just ignore the bad Google Translate on the screenshot. Folks, as you know, social media censorship is growing. The best way to support our video work for Israel is to subscribe to our video newsletter on pulseofisrael.com and to share our videos. If you are already a subscriber, then thank you. Instead of focusing on how dangerous this situation is, I want to take a different approach and highlight the sad humor about what is transpiring and why it is all actually necessary and for the best in order to wake up Israeli society. So in the beginning of this week's Israeli parliament vote on this important security bill, which stops Arab Muslims from Gaza, Judea and Samaria, Saudi Arabia, etc., from obtaining Israeli residency status by marrying Israeli Arab Muslims, well, why is that an issue? Because for years it was a demographic time bomb against Israel, with Arab Muslims marrying countless of wives to then have tens and even hundreds of children. And many of those then went on to commit terrorist acts against innocent Israeli citizens. So that's why it was a serious security issue to solve with this bill. Now, Bennett's anti-Jewish and anti-Israel coalition partners, Meretz and Ram, are totally against this bill. However, as I mentioned earlier, Bennett chose to water down the bill to get their votes and instead focused on shaming Benjamin Netanyahu and the right-wing and religious parties in the opposition for voting against this important security bill. So why did the right-wing and religious parties in the opposition vote against the bill, which in its essence is essential to Israel's security? First of all, by voting against the bill, the opposition parties highlight the fact that this Bennett-Lapid government have coalition partners that act against Israel's security interests. And by them not being able to pass the bill, it weakens this dangerous government, which can potentially lead to it eventually being brought down, which is the number one goal of any opposition in any government. But still, if it's a crucial security issue, why would they vote against the bill? Because it's in Israel's security interest. Well, this brings up the second reason why the right-wing and religious parties voted against the bill. Because the bill was diluted due to trying to bribe the anti-Zionist and anti-Israel coalition partners, like Meretz and the Muslim Brotherhood Ram Party, to vote for it. Hence, the diluted bill is a bad bill, creating a worse security situation than it would have been if the bill would have passed. So, the opposition voted against the bill, including Prime Minister Bennett's own party member, Amichai Shikli, as I mentioned earlier. Now, I want you to check out some of these really stinging tweets that sum up the situation pretty well. And then I will focus on the positive aspect of this whole episode. Now, this first tweet is not from a right-winger, but from Chaim Ramon, a left-winger, former Labour Party Knesset member, who also served as a justice minister in a left-wing Kadima government back in 2006. What did Chaim Ramon tweet? Quote, "Prime Minister Bennett demands that the opposition show national responsibility to allow the bill to pass. And in this, Bennett accuses his coalition partners, Meretz and Ram, thanks to whom he is serving as Prime Minister, that they are parties without national responsibility, which undermines security and endangers Israel as a Jewish state. There is no limit to hypocrisy and double standards," unquote. Now, Chaim Ramon's tweet says it all. Here is a left-wing Israeli, politician, highlighting that Bennett's own words and actions prove that he is the head of a government with parties that undermine and endanger Israel. Interestingly, Ramon publicly called upon Netanyahu not to vote for the bill, because that would be a mockery of the opposition. Ramon, as someone who understands politics, with all of his years in Israeli politics, he knows that no matter how much the opposition might agree with the bill, the only responsible thing the opposition must do to bring down a dangerous government is a vote against the bill. So, in the end, the bill was not passed. The vote was 59-59, thanks to Amichai Shikli, a member of Bennett's own party, who also voted against the bill. In his words, he said, quote, Israel needs a functioning Zionist government, not a shatnez, which means hybrid, that depends on votes of the Muslim Brotherhood Ram party and the anti-Zionist Meretz party. And again, he is part of Bennett's own party. His party is in the government. Bennett is prime minister. Now, as always, it was Prime Minister Netanyahu who came out swinging, highlighting the ultimate hypocrisy of this whole situation. In response to the media headlines, which blared that Bennett and Shaked were furious at Shikli for voting against the bill, saying Shikli can't be trusted, well, Netanyahu tweeted the following, quote, two people who have broken the promises they made to the public, referring to Bennett and Shaked, who promised not to join a left-wing government or allow Lapid to be prime minister. Now they both say that the individual who kept his promises to the public, Amichai Shikli, cannot be trusted. There is no limit to their hypocrisy, unquote. Israeli comedian Yotam Zimri also joined the show. He tweeted in humor the following fictitious conversation. Quote, Shaked, there are politicians here who joined the enemies of Zionism tonight and endangered the country. And then Meretz answers, us? And Shaked answers, no, you're fine. What's Zimri trying to point out? That Shaked and Bennett have partnered with the enemies of Zionism, including Meretz, while instead taking out their anger on the true right-wing religious nationalist parties in the Israeli government. So what is the positive aspect of all this? Well, watch this clip. This is Mansour Abbas, the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood Ram party, in a video interview last year.
الإسلامية الجنوبية يعني الحركة الإسلامية سيدي العزيز، الحركة الإسلامية انطلقت من كونها أسر جهاد، ولكن التجربة السياسية علمتنا إنه الواقع الموجود في إسرائيل أقوى من إنه اليوم إحنا نيجي نقول بدنا نحمل السلاح ونجاهد جهاد القتال. إحنا نجاهد ونرابط جهاد مدني.
He said straight out that he still believes in jihad, which is basically destroying Israel and killing Jews. But since Israel is strong, the jihad to use against Israel is civil jihad, basically to weaken and destroy Israel from within civil society without terror, until the day that Israel is weak, when they can return to using terror jihad against Israel as well. This actually follows Arafat's logic for the Oslo peace process, which was all based on Muhammad's strategy of beating the Jews of Mecca and Medina back in the 7th century. This is a well-known military strategy in Islam. If you can't beat an enemy militarily, then you lay low and you do whatever you can and then attack when they are weak. So how is this all good news? Well, by having the Muslim Brotherhood Ram party in the government, which wants to destroy Israel, more and more Israelis are waking up and how dangerous they are and how dangerous our Israeli leaders are, who dismiss their true intentions to destroy Israel. And today it's using civil society. It is only after enough Israelis wake up to this reality that we will merit the leadership necessary to truly protect Israel from our enemies. So believe it or not, even though the situation looks bleak, it is actually a sign that we are getting closer to improving the situation. Sometimes the wool has to be pulled over people's eyes to then be able to see better once the wool is pulled off. So stay strong and hold on to your faith. The one above is in control of everything and he's watching over us. Yes, we are in for a rocky road ahead, but things will be good.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.